But let me switch gears and get to what's happening in the West Virginia legislature. Huge vote in the House of Delegates today. 11 o'clock when they go in, whether or not to approve a 45-cent increase in the cigarette tax, in the per-pack tax on cigarettes, raising it to $1. Well, let me start with the Senate side and Mitch Carmichael, the Senate Majority Leader. Mitch, good morning. Thanks for holding on. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Hoppy. Good morning to you. And let me begin by saying, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Hatfield family, and just what a tragedy, and just
terrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. And it's sort of, when you talk about all the money and the financial situations of the state and so forth, you just kind of put it in perspective and think, wow, what a horrible tragedy to such a wonderful man.
And you have to and you just everybody I talked to, I've talked to myriad people over the last 20 hours. Why? I mean, what? And I don't want to jump ahead here. I don't want to jump the shark, but maybe it's something tragically simple like a robbery or something. I don't know. But it's the guy going to visiting the grave of his wife, and he's murdered. So
yeah.
But we'll talk more about Hatfield's life later in this broadcast. Let me awkwardly then switch gears to today. I'll ask you to gaze across to the other chamber where you were a member not that long ago. What do you think the House is going to do today?
I tell you, this is high stakes poker here. Really, this vote hinges on just a very few margins. I mean, it's incredibly important that the House of Delegates pass this measure today. I believe in my heart, because I'm an optimist always, that it will pass. I think it's incredibly necessary for the state of West Virginia to backfill some of our revenue. If I could just take a second to put this in perspective. This budget in the current year is $450 million below revenue estimates. It's primarily due to the decline in the coal economy and the oil and gas industry. So we're $450 million below the governor's revenue projections. And going into the next year, we need to backfill some of that money. And we're doing that with a modest raise on the tobacco tax of 45 cents. It raises about $75 million, $75 to $80 million. That is so necessary to fund PEIA, Promise scholarships, other vital programs of state government. And for somebody to vote no and not fund PEIA on this budget is just beyond. To me, it's just I would not be able to explain that vote.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will attempt to tell you, which you know well, what the opposition is, and it comes from a couple of camps. I mean, one is members of your own party, probably 15 to 20, who philosophically believe that there are already too many taxes and taxes are too high and taxes shouldn't be raised anymore. And then the Democrats who are in opposition, believing actually supporting your position of which you've backed, which is $1 increase in the cigarette tax. If you're going to have these budget problems, go ahead and don't fool around with the cigarette tax at half measures. Raise it $1 and help alleviate what will be next year's budgetary problems.
Yeah, the Hoppy, and I understand the opposition that comes from two different camps that are ideologically dug in on their positions. But at some point, we have to jettison that ideology and recognize that we have a pragmatic problem in front of us that needs to be solved. And leaders lead and statesmen make compromise when you have problems put before you. I mean, this reminds me, we were talking here earlier, the story of the three bears, where you go in, it's like, well, this porridge is too hot or this is too cold. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to make a decision. Your vote today, a delegate's vote today, is whether or not you're going to fund PEIA and some of the other vital programs of our state government, or you're going to dig in ideologically and say, if I don't get my way, I quit. And it's just indefensible to vote no on this, I believe. And of course, I'm very invested in this process and believe that we need to produce a budget that's good for the state of West Virginia, and this is a vital component of it.
Senator Mitch Carmichael is with us, Republican Jackson County and the Senate Majority Leader. Let me talk politics for a second, because it's an election year. It's also under the Capitol Dome. You can't separate politics out from policy discussions. Let me give you an observation. That politically, this is costing Bill Cole in his race for the governorship of West Virginia. He's the Senate president, and as I tell you, I was on my way into the studio, and one of my coworkers said, Would you help them get a budget, see if they're going to get a budget? Well, they're blaming the legislature, understandably. Cole is the Senate president. Cole has taken a lot of heat about this, and this is costing him politically. Meantime, this is benefiting Democrat Jim Justice, who one of his arguments has been, I'm not a politician. Look what the politicians are doing in Charleston. They can't get it done. Do you agree with that analysis of the politics of this?
No, I don't agree. I believe that is just those who perpetrate that theory, like Jim Justice, are uninformed and just do not understand what's going on here. We are in a declining revenue stream. And budgeting in that process is extremely difficult. Now, will I concede that there are those who are advantaged by the chaos that can result from not having a budget? Yeah, you might find a political advantage of that, but oh my gosh, woe to the person who takes joy in the fact that they can destroy this process by voting no or playing politics with us. We have to be better than that as a people and as representatives of the people in West Virginia. I believe that nobody has worked harder than Bill Cole to get a budget put together here. And yeah, he's fighting a lot of elements that have political gamesmanship as their primary objective, and that is the wrong path to take. He wants to do what's right for West Virginia and get this budget produced. And frankly, Hoppy, we've got people that are going through, not just in this special session, but going through this budget line item by line item to ferret out those areas of state government that aren't efficient and or can be benefited by getting out of the state control. For instance, like Senator Blair is running a project for us that will find different areas of the budget to extract from the state budget and maybe move it into the private sector. For instance, the School of Osteopathic Medicine has a big budget here that we fund that they would be better off probably to be out of the state of West Virginia's control because they're successful and would be successful without state control. There are lots of things like this that we can do to produce a great budget for West Virginia. Let's quit playing politics with it.
Mitch Carmichael, Mitch Carmichael's with us, the Senate Majority Leader, Republican from Jackson County. So what happens if the House, which is a very real possibility, what happens if the House fails today to pass the tobacco tax? Then what?
We've talked about that. We will regroup. I mean, there is no hurdle that can be put in front of us that we will not overcome to ultimately produce a budget. We'll regroup. We'll come back and find other ways of balancing this budget. We don't want to, necessarily say what Plan B, Plan C, Plan D is if they don't get it right now. But rest assured, we will. We have other ideas as to how to get to the end game of putting a budget in front of the governor. And we welcome the participation of the Liberty Caucus and the Minority Party as well. But at the end of the day, we're going to find a way to get this done.
Hey, real quick, give me your reaction. Again, it's the other chamber, but I just confirmed this morning that two more outspoken members of the Liberty Caucus, delegates Patrick McGeehan and Michael Folk, have been removed from the caucus for the remainder of the special session. They will not be allowed to caucus with the Republicans for the remainder of the special session. What's your reaction to that?
I think it's entirely appropriate to have removed them from the caucus. They have been, it's my understanding, commiserating with the minority party to throw a wrench in this whole process. And that is unacceptable. In caucus positions, you have to be able to speak freely, openly, and know that your comments are confidential. That's the purpose of the caucuses. And so I think there was some concern there that wasn't occurring and that it was appropriate. And I commend Speaker Armstead for his strong leadership on this and removing those instigators of those who are trying to destroy this process.
Mitch Carmichael, Senate Majority Leader. Mitch, thanks for coming on. We'll watch the vote with interest today.